Levon as Vincent is having a think on his board. And wow, we see a really interesting dynamic here. That White started with this d4 c3 setup, and Levon, in his true artistic creativity, decides not to put the b pawn on b6 but on b5, taking control of the c4 square, and he wants to put that bishop on b7 eventually, challenging the light squared bishop on h1 once you get g3 in.
Yeah, now Magnus is also trying this slow approach, yeah, slowly step by step building up, yeah, d4, c3. I really love this construction of fighting against that very powerful bishop on h8. We talked about this, that yeah, we want to play g3 and black clearly wants to play g6, making sure that that bishop is kind of blocked. And I do envision Magnus also eventually going for knight f3, and then short castle is something like going for some very ambitious, trying to get e4 in, but I think black is controlling the e4 square enough. But one angle, if black plays a move like bishop b7, we have some knight c5 move, jumping and attacking that, harassing that bishop. I'm liking White's position.
And that is the drawback of the move b5, right? You've left some holes behind, and immediately Magnus tried to take advantage of that weakness. Also, after b5, you're hesitant to push that d pawn controlling the c5 square. There are many reasons for that. You don't want the d pawn on d6 because that's the square one of your knights wants to land into. Secondly, you leave a lot of light square weaknesses on the board. So an interesting decision by Levon, Nicholas, to go for b5, but it has its own set of drawbacks.
Absolutely, and it's something I want to ask you guys about, because it is always the question in these beginning moves in freestyle chess whether you push a pawn one square forward or two squares forward. Aronian here decided to put his pawn on b5. He grabs more space, he controls more space here, and maybe even has a potential push on b4, but the clear downside is there are more squares that are weakened for this, especially the square c5, and he can never really play d5, or it would come at a huge cost, leaving the square completely undefended. So when I've played freestyle chess myself, it has always been a question where to put the pawns in the beginning of the game. We see that Carlsen took a more cautious approach and playing against this bishop, and here it seems to make a lot of sense, at least when I look at the computer right now, already giving a clear advantage for White. And I think this is one of the tricky decisions to make. How far do you go with the pawns at the beginning of the game?
Yeah, and just look at the picture. Look at it, it tells it all. Yeah, Levon is in kind of state of horror, state of shock that we have just played 2 moves from black side, 3 from white, and I really don't see how to continue. At the same time, now Magnus in his element, feeling like, okay, now it's time to start the tournament. I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and this is gonna be the first game that I'm gonna win here.
And that's a critical game for these two players who are actually coming out of not a great start. Levon lost the previous round to Gukesh, and now fighting it out against Magnus, who's also had, well, we haven't seen him find his rhythm in the first 3 games. So really important end to the day for both these players. Speaking about Nicholas's point,
Nicholas, any thoughts?
Yeah, that's completely right. Your intuition is spot on. If black takes on c6, opening the d-file, the position is over. This is winning for black. There are just too many weaknesses. The pieces are not coordinated to defend the king, so this is lost. Instead, black should...
He takes on a4. We have a move on the board.
Takes on a4. Well, this is also not a good choice. According to the computer, it was at least not one of the top 3 choices. And, well, I think it seems obvious that white should take back. So, yeah, and the variation is rising and rising. The other rook comes into play. And once again, we also have to remember the practical aspect. This position is so much easier for white to play. To attack is usually easier than to defend. And the position plays almost itself.
Really nicely pointed out there by you that with this trade, black's pawns get even weaker. There's another open file for the final piece to join the party, the rook from f1 to come to a1. Let's also point out there's a c5 weakness we can sometimes imagine. And I think Magnus has made the move rook takes pawn if we update our analysis board right here after Levon went.
That I haven't seen Arya so nervous already for a long time, and Magnus Carlsen has probably just crashed through against Levon.
Let's quickly get up the final position of the Magnus-Levon board, how that finished. It looked dominating for Magnus from the very start. And there we see Magnus finally getting his first win of the Freestyle Chess in the very final round. Nicholas, this was the end of this one-sided game.
Yes, let's see the last few moves to understand what happened. But as we said, it was just too difficult to defend practically. And also objectively, it was a tough spot. b4, opening up the king further to open up the c-file. And now c takes b. The bishop was taken. Black really didn't want to do this, because now this pawn is also quite uncomfortable for the king, and there's no defender of the light squares anymore. And rook takes b4. Wow, what a beautiful finish here. Hitting the queen, the rook wants to come in, and if black was to take on b4, it's not immediately obvious to me how the finish is looking, but probably queen d7 check, king b6, and
then probably just bishop e3 check, and then the rook joins the party as well.
Bishop e3 check looks very good, and yeah, this is going to be over very soon. King a6, rook a1, and the king cannot come forward because then c7 is hitting the queen and giving a check. So Aronian didn't